The first time my husband called me after his funeral, I nearly dropped the phone into his grave. It was raining so hard the priest's words drowned in the thunder, and the umbrella trembled in my hands. I should have been crying. Everyone expected that. But all I felt was confusion. The man inside that coffin didn't look like my Thomas. His lips were thinner, his skin tone slightly off. Grief, I told myself. It changes what you see. The pastor said ashes to ashes, my sons placed white roses on the coffin, and I stood there in silence, waiting for a feeling that never came. Then my phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. 2 words. I'm alive. For a long moment, the world disappeared. The rain stopped. My heart stopped. I stared at the screen, the text glowing like a ghost. It couldn't be real, but it was his writing. Thomas always forgot to capitalize I. Always. My fingers moved before I could think. Who is this? The reply came instantly. Don't trust them. They're watching. I looked up slowly. My sons were whispering to each other near the car, their faces calm. Too calm. I shoved the phone into my coat pocket, forcing my expression blank. That was the moment I knew the funeral wasn't an ending. It was the beginning of something much darker. My name is Eleanor Graves, and I am 71 years old. If you're reading this, I need you to understand that what happened to me wasn't madness, it was betrayal. What I'm about to tell you is how I buried my husband twice, once in the ground and once in the truth. Thomas and I met nearly 5 decades ago in the town of Raven Hollow, a place so small it had 1 grocery store and 2 secrets for every smile. He wasn't the kind of man who stood out. He had calloused hands, kind eyes, and the sort of quiet patience that made people trust him instantly. He worked at a small garage, fixing old trucks and talking about dreams too big for our tiny town. When he proposed, he didn't kneel. He just said, "Ellie, you already know I can't live a day without you." That was enough for me. We built our home ourselves, 1 paycheck, 1 wooden plank, 1 late night at a time. When our sons Michael and David were born, we thought our lives were complete. They were our pride, our reason, our everything. But time changes people, success even more so. The boys left for the city, chasing careers, money, the illusion of importance. They'd visit rarely, dressed in tailored suits, wearing smiles that didn't quite reach their eyes. They'd talk about profits, clients, deadlines. They'd look around our modest home with polite discomfort. Thomas would laugh it off, but I could see the pain behind his smile. Then, one night, Thomas didn't wake up. The doctor said heart attack. The boys handled the funeral, the papers, the will. I floated through the days like a shadow. I didn't even have the strength to argue when they told me to rest. Until that message. Until I'm alive. That night, I sat in our empty living room, staring at his old chair. It still smelled faintly of cedar and smoke. My phone lay on the table beside me, screen black. I told myself not to check it, not to believe. Then it buzzed again. "Eleanor, don't tell them. They'll come for you next." No one called me Eleanor, not even my sons. To everyone else, I was Ellie. Only Thomas ever used my full name. My hands went cold. "Thomas?" I whispered into the dark, as if he might answer through the static. A 3rd message appeared. "Go to the basement behind the old cabinet. Hurry." I didn't even think. I grabbed the flashlight and crept downstairs. The air was heavy, damp, and smelled faintly of paint and dust. I moved the cabinet aside. It scraped against the concrete, loud enough to make my heart skip. The beam of light revealed faint scratches on the wall. At first I thought it was damage. Then I leaned closer. There were words. Shaky. Uneven. Carved into the concrete was something sharp. They switched me. My breath stopped. The letters looked fresh, the edges of the grooves clean, not aged. And then, from upstairs, I heard it. The front door creaked open. Mom? Michael's voice. Calm. Too calm. I turned off the flashlight, holding my breath. I saw the light, he said, descending slowly downstairs. What are you doing down here? My phone buzzed again, lighting up my hand. I cupped it quickly to block the glow. Don't let him see you. He's not who you think. My fingers went numb. The phone slipped from my hands and hit the concrete floor. The sound echoed. Footsteps quickened. Mom? That's when I realized whoever was buried that day, it wasn't my husband. My knees almost gave way. The cellar light swung overhead, slicing the dark into sharp, trembling shapes. Michael's footsteps reached the bottom step. Mom, you shouldn't be down here. You'll catch cold. He sounded gentle, too gentle, the same tone Thomas used when he was hiding something. I was looking for the paint tins, I lied. My voice didn't sound like mine. He smiled, that perfect city smile he'd learned somewhere far from Raven Hollow. I'll take care of it. Go upstairs. I nodded, clutching the phone behind my back. The message still burned on the screen. Don't let him see you. He's not who you think. When I turned, the beam from my flashlight brushed his face. For one instant, I saw it, a small burn mark on his wrist, shaped like the edge of a ring. Thomas's ring, the one we'd had engraved E+T 1976. But Thomas's ring had been buried with him, hadn't it? I climbed the stairs, every step a question I couldn't answer. That night, I locked myself in my room. The phone didn't buzz again. The house moaned under the wind, the way old houses do when they're remembering. I opened the dresser drawer where Thomas used to keep his watch, his penknife, his receipts, and found something that wasn't supposed to be there. A key. Rusted, labeled in my husband's handwriting. Locker 37, Raven Station. He hated trains. He never used lockers. At dawn, I dressed quietly, tucked the key into my coat, and drove into town before the boys could wake. The station was nearly empty. I found locker 37, at the far end, half hidden behind a vending machine. The lock turned with a click that sounded too loud in the quiet hall. Inside was a small envelope and a flash drive. The envelope contained a single photo. Thomas, standing beside a car I didn't recognize, shaking hands with a man in a dark coat. The man's face was blurred, but in the corner of the frame was another reflection in the car window. Michael. My stomach clenched. I slid the flash drive into the library computer. A video opened. Grainy. Shaky. Michael. She'll believe it. She always does. David. And after the insurance clears? Michael. Half to you, half to me. Dad's out of the way, she signs, we sell the property, no one asks questions. David. What about the body? Michael. Already handled, they'll never know. The sound of my son's laughter filled the headphones. The world tilted. I walked out of that station numb. The rain had started again, fine and relentless. For the first time since Thomas's death, I didn't feel grief. I felt purpose. When I returned home, the house smelled of coffee and lies. Michael sat at the table reading the paper, David beside him typing on his phone. I stood in the doorway watching them. My blood, my betrayers. Good morning, I said. You boys sleep well? Michael smiled. Better than you, I hope. David chuckled. You were up early. I had errands. I wanted to scream, to throw the mug across the room, to demand why. But I remembered Thomas's messages. Don't trust them, they're watching. So I smiled instead. Dinner tonight, my treat, just us. They agreed without hesitation. They always underestimated me. At sunset, the kitchen filled with the smell of rosemary chicken, their favorite. I set the table exactly as Thomas used to. 3 plates, 3 glasses, 1 empty chair. The boys laughed, joked, drank wine. Feels strange without Dad, Michael said, swirling his glass. Yes, but he's closer than you think. David looked up. What's that supposed to mean? I slid the flash drive across the table. Watch it. They exchanged glances, confused. Then the video began to play on my laptop. Their own voices, their own words echoing through the dining room. Color drained from their faces. Where did you get this? Michael whispered. From him. From the man you tried to kill. They both spoke at once. Excuses, half-truths, stammers. I raised a hand. No police yet. I just want the truth. Silence stretched until it hurt. Finally, Michael said, It wasn't supposed to go that far. He found out about the money. He threatened to tell you. David added. We panicked. The man who helped us, he switched the bodies before the fire. We thought... You thought you could bury him and cache the ashes. From outside came the distant wail of a siren. Both sons turned to the window. I already sent a copy to the police, I said. Insurance fraud, arson, attempted murder, it's all there. Michael's jaw tightened. You wouldn't. I already did. He moved suddenly, knocking the glass from the table, lunging for the laptop. We struggled, wine, blood, and glass everywhere, until David shouted, Stop! But the red lights were already flashing through the curtains. They were arrested that night. The officers asked how I'd found out. I told them the truth I could bear. My husband left clues. They didn't ask how. 2 weeks later, the house was quiet again. Too quiet. Then the phone rang. The same unknown number. My hand shook as I answered. Thomas? A pause. Then his voice. Warm, alive, near. It's done. You're safe now. Where are you? You don't need to know. Static crackled. Thomas, please. Goodbye, Ellie. The line went dead. I called the number back. Disconnected. I went to the cellar one last time. The scratches on the wall were gone, plastered over. On the floor lay the ring. His ring. Clean, shining, as if newly polished. I picked it up, and on the inside of the band was a new engraving, one that hadn't been there before. Don't trust anyone. I smiled through tears. Rest, my love, I whispered. But sometimes, when the house settles after midnight, I swear I still hear his voice behind the walls, quiet, almost tender. You buried the wrong man, Eleanor. You always did.